Really surprising, I think, the similarities. The attack of the AudioBro is a little stronger. That's the first thing that I noticed that's different. Other than that, I mean, you could easily confuse these if you're not paying close attention. The Spitfire is pretty much as it's loaded as well. I think, in fact, none of this has been changed. The microphones load up this way. I mean, you have more control over the microphones. You could add a close. You could add the ambient. I think they called this the ambient mic, the A. But I didn't really change the expression or the dynamics, the amount of reverb, the amount of vibrato. And none of this has changed either. Attack is as short as it goes. Release is as long as it goes. Brightness. This comes up as triple forte or whatever this dynamic level of 100% is supposed to be expression. It's all just the default. The reverb is default. So right out of the box, these two can sound very, very similar. Again, this is viola section. So one of the differences that you'll note when you look a little closer is the end of the note. And this is a little harder to hear. The end of the note on the Spitfire is going to be just a little longer than the release of the AudioBro, and I think that's intentional on Spitfire's part. They make a point in their videos of saying that string players will release, we could say on the downbeat, they'll begin the release. The AudioBro kind of releases almost immediately as soon as the MIDI note ends. Just a slightly quicker end to the note. Another note on this passage, I believe I extended the overlap more than 20 ticks on these two pitches because I wanted to make them slightly more similar. This isn't a bad thing about Spitfire or a good thing, but when they were back at the 20 tick overlap, there was a little bit more separation here, and I'll show you the difference. This is Spitfire. When you take these two pitches and you quantize them closer to about a 20 tick overlap, a very short overlap here, right? They get a little more detached. You can hear a little separation in the notes, which is slightly more, which is not as easy to hear in the AudioBros. They're more connected here. Slightly more connected. It's especially in these last two pitches. So just to make them slightly more similar, and this is a level of control that you've got, the release is in the middle. I could probably try extending the release and see what happens on the Spitfire. Oh yeah, a lot more connected that way. So that's another approach. You could just, if we shorten it, yeah, actually, so. Oh, they get more connected with just a touch of more release. Yep. So, you know, a lot of control in a few different places, and none of it's bad yet. I've got one nitpick about the AudioBro coming up. So that's that passage. Let's move on to another passage. Before I go on to the nitpick, the thickness on the Spitfire is slightly bigger there. The AudioBro has a little bit more direct sound to me, at least through my headphones, through this headphone amp. It just feels a little it's full, but it's slightly more plain or a little bit more clear, maybe, whereas the Spitfire is a little bit more full ambient, and that can be controlled with the vibrato. So listen to the vibrato has a huge impact on this sound here. So I'll change it while we're listening. And to get them more similar, if you want it to sound slightly more like the AudioBro, you might have to turn the volume up on the Spitfire. You could just take the vibrato down a touch. And it starts getting so similar that it becomes difficult to recognize, especially if I brought it up about maybe 3/4 of a decibel or something. You know, there's slight volume change when you pull the vibrato out. It gets a little quieter as well. Maybe there's some mic adjustments you could make if you really wanted to try to get an exact mimic. So we're at very fine points here. I mean, the similarities are far outweighing the differences in sonic quality, which is not what I expected, I guess, when I started this. This is the nitpick on the AudioBro. You can hear how a sample feels like it drops out halfway through this note. I can even bring up the score editor if you want to kind of follow along. It's just strange, and I tried to play with all of these controls to figure out if I could bring it back in, but it just feels like it drops out right on the kind of on the downbeat. And I moved it in time, and I can't get it to come back. It just dries up all of a sudden. So that's really distracting, and I wasn't able to correct that. Maybe there's a way. Maybe it doesn't happen on a different dynamic level. Oops, I've got this automated. No, it keeps disappearing even at the lower dynamic level. So I mean, this is something that if I cared, I would ask them about. I guess there's going to be an update. I don't really care that much, but I still feel like I'm hearing it disappear without the automation, but this is a futile exercise. Let's listen to this whole line just so we can hear the two compared back to back. I mean, just really similar. I would have to really study them. You can pick out the differences when you think about it and when you're listening carefully. But as soon as you sort of stop paying attention and just listen to the music, it's so similar. I mean, the Spitfire to me does have more body, it tends to feel more emotional. I begin to get lost in the music. I think about the musical phrase just a touch more. The native instruments, AudioBro, sounds a little bit more stilted, a little bit more like, it could use some dynamic shaping, and it could use a little automation to help it. Obviously, a harmony would really help it. A couple other things, could really help make it feel more convincing and help it feel very, beautiful. But the Spitfire is just doing that with quantized notes and, basically a unchanged patch. Hope you hope you got at least half as much out of it as I did. I was just shocked at the similarities, and you begin nitpicking about the differences.